Hi there, it is Tiffany from Daisy Farm Crafts, and today I'm going to show you the Catherine wheel stitch, which is a classic stitch in crochet. And I'm working on a baby blanket for my grandma in training practice, and these are just a little swatch of some colors that I was thinking of, but I just wanted to get this stitch taught to you so you can start working on a swatch along with me if you want to. And I'm using Caron Simply Soft. The swatch that we're going to do today is going to look like this. Just, you only need to do 5 rows and then it repeats back to row 2 through 5. So this is all the swatch that I'm going to be teaching you today. And I think once you get this, you can just continue on and practice it. So I'm using a size H hook, 5.0 millimeter with my Caron Simply Soft yarn that I love, which is a medium weight, but you can do this with any yarn. So this is just a practice sample. Okay, the pattern repeat for a Catherine wheel stitch is 10 plus 6 plus 1. So what that means is that if you wanted to make this a blanket yourself, you can use a multiple of 10, chain to any length that you want, so say 50, then add 6, then add 1. So your base chain would be 57. So today for this sample, I chained 27 stitches. And I think this is a good place to start to do a swatch and learn this. It is intermediate. So if you're a brand new beginner, this is not the blanket for you to learn. I'll just say that right now. You want to learn something a little bit, not quite as complicated. Okay. Here we go. So in the second chain from the hook, I'm going to work my first single crochet. Then I'm also going to work a single crochet into the next chain. So the first 2 stitches are single crochet. Then I'm going to skip over the next 3 chains and work into the 4th chain with 7 double crochets. That's going to make our first half semicircle. So we want 7 of them in there. Here's 3. And so since I'm calling this an intermediate blanket, I'm going to assume that you know how to make a double crochet and that you also know how to do single crochet, because those are some basic stitches that you would have learned. Okay, here's my 7, and after each one I go ahead and give it a quick count, because if you get 8 in there or 6, it will mess up the next row. I'm going to skip over the next 3 chains and work into the next one, and I'm going to work a single crochet into the next one and the next one and the next one for a total of 3. So you skip over 3 chains and then you single crochet in the next 3. So here's what we have so far. Okay, now I am going to skip 3 chains again, work into the next one with my 7 double crochets. And this, I'll tell you, this base chain row is just the trickiest one to do because it's always hard working into that chain. And I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do for a border on my blanket. I have to come back and show you that. But 4, here's 5, 6, and 7. Okay, kind of adjust your chain, adjust the tension there. Now, make sure that one, this little chain sometimes wants to disappear when you get so many double crochets around one. So make sure you're still seeing it and count it as 1, 2, 3. We're skipping over the next 3 and working 3 single crochets over the next 3. So 1 per chain 3 times. Okay, and here we are to the end, and you should have 4 chains left. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that allows you to skip over 3. And this time into the end space, we will work 4 double crochets. So that kind of gives you that half of a semicircle, and that helps on the end of the blanket. So make sure you get 4. Now before I pull through on the last step, I'm going to yarn over with some of the light country peach color. Very typical way of changing yarn, always on the last step of the stitch. And I am going to chain 1 and turn my work. So this is what we have so far. You want to see that? 7 double crochets separated with the 3 single crochets. Okay, in the top of the last double crochet that you made, look, it's kind of splitty. You should be able to see that big hole. That's where you're going to work your first single crochet. And did I say I chained 1 and turn? I hope I did. That's what I did. Work a single crochet into the next stitch. Now here we go. We are going to work over the next 7 stitches with double crochet cluster. So I'm yarning over, inserting my hook into the first one, pulling up a loop, and then just pulling through 2. That's it. Now I'm going to do the same thing into the next stitch. Yarn over and just pull through 2. Yarning over, continuing on, kind of keeping track. I've done 3. Here's number 4 and 5, 6, and here we go into the last one. Now, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops on your hook, but you worked across 7 stitches. Okay? Here we go. You yarn over and you're going to pull through all of them. So that's how you're going to get that to go through. Now simply just chain 3. Now into the very next stitch that's open, that was your last one that you worked into, the next stitch that's open, you are going to work a single crochet, and you're going to single crochet again in the next space and the next. So 3 single crochet, continuing that pattern. Here we go. Remember to chain 3 right here before we work our 7 double crochets together. Here we go again. So just right into that next stitch. Always remember to get your 3 chains there first. Go ahead, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through 2. There's 1. Go across the whole, all the next 7 stitches. And this fills in that part of that semicircle. Here's my last one. Okay, do you have 8? I'm yarning over. I kind of like twist my hook down and get it to pull all the way through. I will say I do love these Susan Bates hooks when I work with Caron Simply Soft. Caron Simply Soft kind of has this more, I don't know, I love it so much, but it can be that people complain that it splits on them, but that's because it's like a flat acrylic, and I love that about it. Sometimes I don't like the puffy acrylic, depends on the project. And so anyway, a Susan Bates hook helps because these are a little bit more pointy under there. Sorry, did you see me chain 3? And now I'm working those 3 single crochets across the top. Don't forget to chain 3 after every one of those 3 single crochets, and pretty much between each section of stitches on this row we're chaining 3. Now we are going to only work across the next 4, and you should have 4 stitches left to finish the row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it. Great. Okay, now all I'm going to do is chain 1 and turn my work. Okay, here we go for step 3. I needed to chain 2 more times. Sorry, I'm looking at my pattern at the same time. It's off camera. Okay, I still have to actually refer to my cheat sheet. It's a hard one to remember all the different rows, but once you get going, then you'll get it. Okay, this is one thing I want you to pay attention to. You kind of formed a little hole right there when you pulled that chain. That's the hole you're going to work into. It's underneath these 2 V's, but it's easy to look just for that little hole. And you are going to work 3 more regular double crochets right into that space, because the chain 3, that counts as your, we've been doing 4 on the end, so that chain 3 counts as one of them, and you're going to want to remember that because you're going to have to work into it as when we come back. Okay, now those 4 that we just worked, they kind of lay down and they lay across that chain 3 space, and we're just looking for the tops of those single crochets, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of them. So the single crochets are always stacked on top of each other. Okay, now again, we are looking for that little hole. It's at the bottom. I'm hoping the camera can show that. That's the hole I'm looking for right there. Working into the center of the wheel, I guess. And you guessed it, we're going to do 7 double crochets right into that space. So kind of keep as you go, when you do the top half of the wheel, you are doing individual double crochets. When you work the bottom half of the wheel, those are 7 double crochets together. Here's my 7. Okay, and that 7th one just kind of lays down on the chain, and you're just searching for those next 3 single crochets. Almost there, guys. Get your 7. Oops, hitting into my little tripod thing there. Okay. I'm working 7 double crochets into this wheel, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, and now, as you may already have anticipated, there should be 2 single crochets that we started out with, that's all you're going to work into. 2 single crochets to end this row. Except now that we have completed this color, I'm going to switch back to off white so that we can see the next row. Okay, so I think, when you're done with your blanket, you do kind of have to adjust those stitches to make them get into the wheel-like shape, but that's what we should have so far. Okay, so I'm just going to pull up my cream, pull that through. I'd never cut it off. Oh, whoops, let me finish my first part of my stitch. There we go. Pulling through right there. And if you wanted to just do 2 colors and you hate weaving in ends, I would just do your Catherine wheel 2 colors, and I would carry your yarn up the side. All right, here we go. Let's see, we've done 1, 2, 3. This is step 4. We're almost finished here. We are going to start with 3 chains and then turn. And now this first chain counts as your first double crochet. So on this row, your next stitch does not go right here. Does not go right there. It will go into the second one. And you will work a half of that double crochet. Just pull through 2 because we're kind of clustering this corner. We're working over the next 3 stitches for a total of 4 because that chain is going to count as the first one. Pull through all of them. Now, just like the rows before that we did this, we got to go for those chain 3s. And now we're going to work single crochets into each of these next 3 stitches, just like we'd done before. So there's a little bit of, you'll get the repetition down. It was just always the ends that kind of one thing I started doing too as I've done this is if I didn't have my little pattern with me, I just have to kind of look at the previous rows I've already made, figure out what I did. Okay, I'm working across those next 7 spaces down that valley, up the other side a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm yarning over, pulling through all of them. 1, 2, 3 chains. Here we go. 1, 2, 3 chains and 7 double crochets together across the next 7 stitches. Did I do it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's 7. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Now, this is where I was saying before, you can clearly see where to go for this, because you need to do 2 single crochets. The first one's a piece of cake. The second one is into the top of the churning chain, and it has tightened up on me, and I sometimes just cheat. If I can poke my hook in there, great. If not, I just don't care, and I go underneath them and pull through. I'm going to leave that up to you. You can decide. And maybe the yarn you're using doesn't tighten up on you, but mine does. But I feel like I still get a straight edge, so I'm okay. All right, last row. And then you go back and repeat row 2. This is the 5th row. I am chaining 1 and turning. Look how pretty that is. It is such a pretty stitch. Okay, I'm just going to work 2 single crochets right together. First 2 stitches, and then find that hole and work my 7 double crochets on the top half. Okay, so I hope it's so hard to know if I'm hoping my hands were at the right angle. I've heard feedback that sometimes, it is hard to see, but most of the time, you know what? 3, 4, 5, 6. I really want you to be so nice to yourself. If you're frustrated or whatever, and instead of saying, oh, I'll never get crochet, I'd rather you say, well, this is what I say to my kids. No, guess what? I just need more practice. And this is advanced. So good for you if, this is your first time trying it. And keep going and do more practice on these rows. On this swatch, because you know what? It doesn't count for anything. And then you'll learn, and then by the time you really have it down and you've figured out all the little things that are tripping you up, then start your blanket. You'll have a beautiful blanket when you finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Skipping over, headed to those 3 single crochets. And good for you, actually, for the people that can learn from videos. I actually can't learn from videos. I know a lot of people say that that's their only way, but oh my gosh, I have to have the written word. Okay, here we go again. And there are many different ways this pattern has been written as to how to finish this row. So I'm going to leave it up to you. I personally like to find the top of that turning chain, but I have seen it where they're finding that little hole. So you decide. It's not, you know, you can stick your hook here or you can stick your hook there. All we're doing is those final 4 double crochets into that space. So I figure you're going to be going back and doing a border, so, you know, whatever. Okay, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this happened. This is another thing that I saw kept happening, and that I want to show you my little trick. Did you see what that big gap? So sometimes, I'm just going to work under there. When you're trying to do this slant thing, I go ahead and I squinch, try to get the double crochet to go over closer to this chain so I don't have that big gap between those stitches. There's not a big area. And then I'll work my 4. So it's kind of like you've got to get those double crochets to lean and work them in the direction that they're going to be. Okay. Okay. And I did not. So up to you. Hate it. Too big of a gap. I probably actually wasn't doing that. I think in this one, I really was working into the top of that turning chain. So like I say, you decide. If you can't find the turning chain, it's not going to be any big deal that you go right there either. It's kind of unclear in every pattern that I found. So it's going to be, make it look good so that when you go back for a border, you'll be fine. Yeah, I think I like that better. So top of the turning chain or into that very last space, and you've got to work 4 double crochets. Okay, you're going to start over with row 2 and repeat rows 2 through 5 through the whole blanket. And then I'm going to, that would just be for your swatch. I have done some other techniques with it, and I have, like I say, I don't have a finished blanket project. I have been adding single crochets, 2 rows of single crochet in between, and I don't have my swatch of the double crochets, but my guess is when I'm all done, I'm going to have to figure out how to fill in these gaps before I go around the whole thing. So we'll get to that. Anyway, here is the stitch. Catherine's Wheel. This isn't it. This is it. Here we go. Okay, thank you everyone for coming by, and the full pattern when I get this blanket finished will be on daisyfarmcrafts.com, but for right now this is just stitch practice, and I will also have this all written out, and I'm going to try and do more graphics to see if that can help you, for those of you that also like to look at a pattern just like me, instead of just video. All right, thank you everyone. Have a good day.